Many game franchises are well known for their stunning and diverse multiplayer modes, and our friend Bomberman is no exception to this. However, Bomberman 64 attempted something new, bold, and adventurous by diving into some uncharted waters. In the wake of Super Mario 64's sweeping success, Hudson Soft saw an opportunity to bring things like adventure, platforming, and brand spanking new 3D to their own unassuming hero, Bomberman. We'll see if they were able to blow away the competition when I complete Bomberman 64.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Completionist. Bomberman 64 just had something so special about it that I can't quite put my finger on it. But you know, I remember having a blast when I was a kid and really enjoyed every single part of the game. Last I checked, I remember Bomberman 64 being a pretty pleasant, refreshing, and easy experience. You're just laughing at me? Just having a good laugh? Cut. Can we cut? This is weird. Please cut. Cut the camera.
Dude, this game is not as easy as you remember it to be.
What do you mean?
No.
It's Bomberman 64.
Just you wait. Just you wait.
It's tight.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
Did I miss something?
Mm-hmm.
Yes!
Prior to Bomberman 64, the Bomberman games were much simpler action puzzle games. You'd have to clear obstacles, collect power-ups, and destroy enemies and bosses. But what primarily set Bomberman apart from its peers was its expansive and blast-tastic multiplayer. This format really stood the test of time, leading to a bomber's dozen of games from the 1980s onward. Bomberman was able to charm many kids and nerds who lived in their mom's basement with its silly imagery and explosive gameplay. Enter Bomberman 64, the franchise's first attempt at full 3D. Now I know some of you Raptors out there are thinking, oh Gerard, what about 3D Bomberman? That was a Japanese only game released in 1984, you idiot. But what I said was full 3D. Full. Now, Bomberman 64 was much more than a puzzle game. There was some actual platforming to contend with. Not only that, but the beloved Bomberman multiplayer mode was now sharing the spotlight with a sizable single-player mode. So when I was a kid, I never actually owned Bomberman 64, but I do remember going with my mom to Blockbluster Video to rent it. I ended up loving it so much that every 5 days, I'd make my mom go with me to renew my copy so I could continue playing it and complete the game. One of the Blockbuster employees got so annoyed with me that he threw the cart I had been using into a pile of other Bomberman carts, so I wouldn't be able to know which one had my save file. I was so determined to complete the game that I made my mom go back and forth from our house to Blockbuster until I found my cartridge, and when I finally found it, I completed the ever-living crap out of the game. Take that, Bill from Blockbuster from many years ago, you piece of Now I complete games for a living, and what do, huh? You probably work somewhere else that's not Blockbuster because they're all gone, so get bopped, Bill! Wow, okay, so apparently I've got some resentment still, somewhere deep down inside of me. Also, I now realize that I made my mom drive back and forth to that place, and that was really rude. So I am very sorry, Mom. I haven't completed this game in 20 years, but I am super stoked to hit the ground running. To start off, I'll need to complete the game's adventure mode. I don't remember the campaign being too long, but I do remember there being a lot of crap to collect. Which brings us to the next thing I'll need to do, which is to collect a bunch of hidden golden tickets, golden cards that are scattered throughout the entire game. Why are they cards? Why are they golden? Can I tap them for mana? I don't know, man. They're just shiny. After that, I'll need to collect the game's other main collectible, which are the costume pieces. They look sort of like Pokeballs, but with the question mark on them. Normally, collecting the costumes unlocks them for use in multiplayer customization modes. However, I am completing the Wii U version of this game because my cart just wasn't working, which does not support the use of the costumes in the multiplayer. It's the absolute worst. All I wanted to do was dress up like a chicken and blow up a Japanese schoolgirl. Finally, it turns out that there is one costume that can only be unlocked by completing a Bomberman 64 speedrun. That means finishing the game and gathering all the golden cards in under 3 hours. Plus, I'll also be doing so while knocking out the requisite hard mode run. I'm not too worried though. I mean, I completed Samus Returns for God's sakes. Hopefully this will be pretty simple, and my team and I can go for some nice KBBQ afterwards. For the casual player, Bomberman 64 is not too bad of an experience. There's a certain adorable quirkiness to the design that holds up next to the game's contemporaries. However, the game is rough around the edges and definitely has the potential to cause lots of frustration. The narrative isn't the most exciting, the music is just okay, and the overall experience is honestly lukewarm. Narratively, there really isn't much to write home about with Bomberman 64. Things open up on a serene-looking day when all of a sudden a slew of unsavory characters drop out of the sky to start some shit. Some bad dudes start using a cube to leash the planet's life force, and then they proceed to bomb the ever-loving crap out of Planet Bomber. Yo, wait a second, it's just called Planet Bomber? The planet is named after the main character? How utterly self-centered. On a nearby hilltop, a mysterious figure who bears a striking resemblance to a golden-clad Starscream approaches Bomberman, who apparently has just been chilling and watching all of this happen, and asks him if he plans to do something about this invasion. Bomberman gives an affirmative head nod, and the stranger explains that the destruction of the 4 chains linking the islands of the Sky Fortress will allow Bomberman a chance to take down the big baddie. So Bomberman jumps into action, ready to take down the invaders and rescue all the people who look just like him. Overall, this is an all too familiar narrative. There's nothing really that surprising about it. Not to say that this formula is bad, the simplicity is nice, but I just wish that it offered some higher stakes. This was Bomberman's first foray into something narratively driven. I wanted something a little bit better for the little dude. But there is plenty of charm within this game, and it's mostly apparent within the character's adorable vocalizations. It's so cute to hear Bomberman's voice while he kicks and throws his bombs. You just want to pinch those little cheeks and squeeze him so hard that he explodes. However, Bomberman's blown up death sound drove me up the goddamn wall. I heard that sound so many times that it now eats my soul. That being said, aside from the main theme, I can't honestly think of a single tune from the game off the top of my head. Don't get me wrong, the music isn't bad, it's just not memorable in any way, despite the fact that it's extremely repetitive. There are a few rudimentary cutscenes throughout the game with just a teeny tiny bit of dialogue, but that dialogue is elementary at best, and it becomes clear that the spoken word is not the strong suit of any of these characters. You'd think that they would utilize these cutscenes to flesh out Bomberman's universe, or that at the very least, develop some kind of characters in this game, but no. The game has managed to translate Bomberman's iconic look from 2D to 3D, faithfully keeping its adorable imagery intact. But honestly, Bomberman seems a little plain in design, being composed of mostly simple circles and a few colors. His bad guys are actually more interesting looking. I love the differences and little nuanced characterizations that each space pirate has to differentiate them from each other and Bomberman. That's right, they're actually cooler than you, Bomberman. The levels are fairly expansive and varied from one another, but there were times where I kept asking myself, where the hell is everyone? I wanted more enemies and collectibles for these big ass levels. Even the background art just seems kind of boring. The game does have some personality, which makes the pervasive lack of strong design elements in the rest of the game extremely disheartening. Bomberman 64 looks and feels a lot like I remember it. However, my nostalgia glasses were thick and strong going into the experience. Now that I've played it again, the game most definitely does not hold up how I remember it to be, and honestly, I'm pretty bummed out about it. I really wish that the game would have stuck to stronger and bolder choices. It just feels a little safe and uninspired. Going into Bomberman 64, I thought, hey, this is going to be way easy. How hard can a game be with such an adorable protagonist? And oh God, wow was I wrong. So wrong. It may not be the most difficult game I've completed on the show, but Bomberman 64 contained so many frustrating elements that it not only knocked off my nostalgia goggles, it stomped on them on the concrete too. The gameplay is pretty straightforward. Bomberman goes into a level, kills a few bad guys, clears some obstacles, and does some sort of puzzle, and boom, the stage is done. There are of course the game's collectibles, but if you're not completing the game, most of that is just superfluous. Bomberman's arsenal is simple yet effective. Everything in the game revolves around bombs and what you can do with said bombs.
Bomb, 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 bomb. You gonna arrest me?
other tools when you've already got military-grade explosives. Bomberman's first ability is his ability to throw bombs. This is useful for killing enemies from afar and can be used to help create bomb bridges. It's honestly not as precise as I'd like it to be, and the game's problem with depth perception can make this more than a little rage-inducing. Being able to pump up your bombs while they're in your hands is very neat, unless you create massive explosions that deal some serious damage. The little white boy can also lay bombs down on the ground and kick them. Now this ability has been a staple in Bomberman since the dawn of time. Kicking a bomb directly at an enemy will stun them for a short time, including some of the bosses. While enemies are stunned, you can pick them up and toss them on the floor like some WWE kind of stuff. Show them who runs things by throwing them off a cliff into the great void. One of the strangest mechanics in the game, and probably the one that took me the longest to master, was the ability to make bomb bridges. Who knew that it was the bombs themselves that would allow Bomberman to become a legitimate platformer? Which brings me to this point: Bomberman can't jump, so you're just expected to figure out how to build these bomb bridges to clear gaps and get on top of things. But nowhere does the game instruct you on how to do this, you just kind of have to know. To make matters worse, all of the game's best secrets are discovered by traversing bomb bridges, so get ready to f up a lot of bomb bridges and proceed to throw your Wii U gamepad like a goddamn frisbee. You are also able to temporarily upgrade Bomberman by finding power-ups within each level. Some allow him to carry more bombs, some increase the bomb's damage and explosive radius, and others turn them into remote bombs, allowing Bomberman to detonate them at his leisure. Now, something I appreciated about this game is the variety of different levels and level designs. In each world, there are 4 stages, 2 platforming and puzzle stages, and 2 boss stages. And within all of these stages are players' opportunity to collect those glorious golden cards. You can get the cards in the boss stages by meeting certain criteria, like hitting the boss a certain way, destroying a specific part of the boss's body, or defeating it within a certain time limit. Now, at times, this can be frustrating due to how precise the game requires the player to be with their bomb throws. The golden cards in the platforming stages play out in a very similar manner. While 3 of them are simply hidden collectibles, another one is a reward for killing a certain number of enemies, and you'll get yet another for completing a speed run of that stage. Now, without spoiling anything, I do have to mention that it is possible to beat the game without the card collection. However, if you do not get all the cards leading up to the confrontation at the Black Fortress, you will not be able to move on to the secret area where the game's actual final boss is and the rest of the cards and costume pieces reside, and because of that, you'll get a slightly different credit sequence. The aforementioned costume pieces are usually incredibly well hidden, and will take quite a bit of experimentation with bomb bridges and exploration in order to find them. Even more so than the golden cards, these costume pieces are the real reason to explore each stage, since they're much more deviously hidden. Under normal circumstances, they'd be one of the coolest aspects of the game, but since we can't even use them in this version of the game, I ended up caring about them a lot less. For better or for worse, the game's controls are fine, I guess. Unfortunately, some of the classic grid-like movement and gameplay Bomberman is known for did not translate that well into 3D. There were countless times I had trouble perceiving space and depth in relation to the levels, which led me to blowing up myself with a bomb half a dozen times. Yet you can take advantage of the grid in moments where you're trying to traverse more precarious bridges by just finding the line and walking down it easily. So most of the basic enemies are forgettable, but the bosses are where the game's luster lies. Each of the space pirates can do everything Bomberman can do and more. They each have their own special powers that coincide with their world as well as their overall design. For example, one shoots fire while another boss has a shield. Also, the monster bosses are some of the most challenging and yet enjoyable moments in the game. Each one is completely unique from the others and takes their very own specific strategies to take them down. I will admit that the anglerfish boss was a source of major frustration and rage for me, especially trying to get all of his golden cards. I can't begin to tell you how many times I accidentally fell into the goddamn water after he ripped my raft into shreds. The normal difficulty setting in adventure mode was relatively pleasant and sufficiently tickled my nostalgia bone. However, I knew the speedrun was coming. What made that run so difficult wasn't the fact that I was also playing it on hard mode, which was actually just an increase in enemies and a few changes to the locations of the collectibles. What ruined me was the speed part. If all the collectibles had been in the same spots, things would have been a bit easier, but it would be impossible possible to get a good time while also taking time to learn the new locations of everything. So I actually did one additional run through of the game, specifically scouting all of the new item locations. Then I came back a third time to actually attempt the speed run with my newfound knowledge. And even with that knowledge, the only reason I was able to complete the speed run was with the help of an upgrade that you get for collecting all of the golden cards. It's called full power mode, and it transforms all of your bombs into souped up remote bombs. This allows Bomberman to create bomb bridges and access later game secrets from the get-go, seriously cutting down my total playtime for the speed run. And being able to toggle that mode off and on at my leisure was an absolute godsend. It's like the devs knew the speed run was a pain in the ass and they threw a player a major bone. But I'd have to kick myself if I did not mention one of the most absolute best aspects of this game. Multiplayer, baby. The multiplayer is just so much freaking fun. It's everything I remembered and more. The main goal of the multiplayer is to blow up and bop your friends, and the last man standing wins. You can collect temporary upgrades during this mode to help make you the very best Bomberman you can be. It's competitive, it's fast-paced, and very chaotic. All of the right ingredients needed to shatter friendships and split families. For all of you non-completionists out there, Bomberman 64 is a decent time, full of fun explorable stages and unique bosses with well thought out mechanics. But to people like me, the completionists, the most hardcore of teen gamers, parts of this game are challenging enough to the point of utter frustration. One misstep can ruin entire runs or cause the player to start over entire boss fights and levels. This can lead to some serious rage moments that make me question why I put myself through all this torment. I am in completionist purgatory. There's nothing but bad gameplay and fucking Bubsy. For all of the headaches that completing this game provided, at least the rewards are pretty sweet. Besides the 2 different credit sequences, one for getting all the golden cards and one for not doing so, you are also given a few extra goodies. First off, there's the aforementioned full power mode, which is absolutely amazing and is an absolute must during your speedruns. The only problem with this mode is that it increases the chances of you accidentally blowing yourself up. Full power mode also does so much damage that if you're trying to hit a boss a specific way to get a golden card, you might end up doing too much damage, killing the boss and ruining your chances. Aside from that, there are those last costume pieces that are rewarded to you for completing hard mode in a speed run. I have to say that the golden Bomberman costume looks pretty sick. However, I am very disappointed that the Wii U version doesn't support the ability to use these costumes during multiplayer mode, and that I wasn't able to demoralize Ted with my glorious golden ass. Speaking of multiplayer, by completing the game 100%, you are also awarded with a few extra multiplayer stages, which only increase the mayhem and hijinks you can get into with your friends. For beating the game on normal, you are also given a sound test, which lets you listen to all of those sick tracks you just couldn't get out of your head from the main game. Woo! Completing Bomberman 64 wasn't mind-numbingly easy, nor was it a nightmare world from which I would never return. It was definitely somewhere in between. There are elements of the game that did not age well and caused some friction in an otherwise smooth ride. The cuteness and charm of this game make the challenge and most frustrating elements much more palatable. I'm not a big fan of required speedruns, but I know I'm undoubtedly going to have to face a few in my future. When I completed Bomberman 64, there were 72 costumes collected, 240 golden cards collected, 3 campaigns played through, 48 hours of total playtime, and dozens of times I blew myself up by accident while using full power mode and heard that absolutely horrifying and soul-crushing sound. Bomberman 64 is a fun time. However, it ended up giving me more heartburn and stress than I had originally anticipated. It definitely has its place among the classics, but that place is just smaller and less significant. A little smaller. 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 Bam! That's perfect.
When I was a kid and I would think about Bomberman 64, I would think of things like pizza and staying home from school on rainy days and playing this game with my brother and having a really awesome good time with my N64. Today, after completing Bomberman 64 officially, I think of really long and difficult level designs. I think of an incessantly difficult costume mechanic of collecting those golden cards. I think of a speed run that I wish I never knew existed. I get bummed out at the fact that on the digital re-release of this game, because I apparently can't find my childhood copy lying around anywhere, I can't use those golden cards for those rewards, and playing multiplayer without costumes is kind of diminishing to the brand of Bomberman 64. So when it comes to the digital re-release, I am super disappointed. So with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of play it.
Play it.
That's all the time we have for today, guys, so please, as always, let me know what you thought about today's episode somewhere on the internet. Hey, did you miss last week's video on Prince of Persia? Because according to my YouTube analytics, all of you did. Either that or you have no interest in Prince of Persia, which is possible. So in case you missed last week's video on Prince of Persia, you can give a click or tap to that right here. If you want to subscribe, I'd appreciate that. And guys, I'll see you next week for another brand new episode in which I don't complete Yakuza 0. Bye!